there is an idea that I think carries quite a bit of significance, quite a bit of weight, which is to go ghost. A great reference to this that I've always found very fascinating and inspiring is spies. I have loved spy movies for a long time, and it's shown up in a number of ways. Spies, assassins in media, they're very, very competent. They move silently. They just do their thing silently, and the attention is never on themselves. It's never, oh, I did this thing. In fact, quite the opposite. They want it to not be known what they've done. They move through the shadows. At the same time, they're incredibly effective, incredibly competent, so efficient, and they're often dressed super well. So, whether it's from the novels of John le Carre, or of course the James Bond series, or even other media, I just think it's so fascinating to see how a spy moves. They move like ghosts, they move like specters. They maneuver through society, but with hyper efficiency. Rather than, a general in like the Napoleonic Wars who would wear plumes to declare that they are in fact the general, and then as a result, the enemy would try to direct their arrows at that general because of their ostentatious outfit. A spy has no need to draw attention to him or herself. Their ideal is the execution of their mission, and that alone leads to incredible results. So if you're in a season of your life where you think going ghost might be of importance, it could be beneficial to you. You can pull away from all these influences or perspectives that hold you back. They overjudge you. It's like you over-communicate, overshare, or at the very least, you're pouring all of this energy and all of this attention into media and directions of your life that yield no results. They're ultimately just a distraction. Then I would invite you to, like me, just go a little bit ghost and see what happens. So the first idea I want to share in this video is that you should fake supreme confidence in your endeavors. This is very similar to the idea of act as if. You pretend you're a thing, and you'll start to become it, you'll start to act like it. It carries so much weight. In my last video, I talked about the power of conviction. And one of the main benefits of fitness or improving body composition or whatnot is that your inherent internal conviction goes up. But you can also prove this to yourself on a daily basis. And a really great way to do this is to just pretend. An example I can give is that a coaching client of mine and a good friend who I've been working with for probably 4 or 5 months now, he's now building out his own YouTube studio in a brand new apartment, brand new environment. And so he asked me, what would be an aesthetic YouTube studio? What would look good for this space? We had a conversation about it. I shared some inspiration with him. But I think back to when I first started building out my studio spaces or, various aspects of where I would film. And I just sort of followed an intuition. I followed a hunch of how I wanted to present. It led to some really bold choices. In my main living room area, I painted the wall like a dark brown purple with white bookshelves. And someone told me that I sort of have like a supervillain type home environment because some of the choices I've made with the walls and whatnot, they're so dramatic. There's dark charcoals and purples and just dramatic choices with the environment where I live. But I'm glad I followed those instincts. It was sort of built in with some influences I would follow, like Peter McKinnon back in the day. Even Matt D'Avella, I'm seeing now, he's gone for a bolder direction on his bonus channel that he just kicked off, where it looks very professional as a YouTuber, but in daily life, it's a really dramatic choice. And I was able to make those decisions because I just followed a hunch. I followed sort of an act as if principle. You'll find this in so many terrains of your life. If you tell yourself you are a certain thing, the world will immediately accept you as that thing. It's the most profound thing ever. Back in the day, there was a denim jacket that I would wear, a black denim jacket from Levi's, and I bought it in Mumbai. I really strongly associated it with being an actor. I think actors in my mind, they're dressed kind of cool. There's maybe a stylish but well put together disheveledness to a lot of the actors I admired. And so I put on this denim jacket and I would go take meetings and interviews with agents in Hollywood. I realized when I wore that denim jacket, I felt like the personification of this character. I felt like, oh, this is who I am. This is the environment. And so you can do these endeavors to sort of fake this confidence about the thing you want to become. As you find, you envision and embody that space and become that thing, suddenly people really start treating you that way. You can follow this perspective with a number of things, So if you want to become better at business, you want to be taken more seriously, get a professional haircut. And even though it became very common in the culture to dress relaxed, dress casual, just put yourself through the perspective where you dress like what a really sharp professional would in your mind. Maybe Harvey Specter from Suits could be a character that you model yourself off of, Don Draper, or even, Ryan Gosling in Crazy Stupid Love. He's got that professional sales guy type demeanor and atmosphere about him. Put it on a little bit and go into that space in your mind and see what it kicks back. Because what I found is that immediately as I start taking on a persona, even if I'm faking it at first, immediately as I start to take on this sort of internal image of who I want to be, it's like within seconds that everyone starts reacting to me in that way. And in contrast, if I cultivate myself in a different perspective and I don't feel like this character that I want to be, so if I walk around disheveled or my outfit isn't sharp, or internally I'm just not in an environment where I feel good about myself, maybe I've like made some mistakes or something, and it's like the internal identity is not what it should be to generate or yield a certain result, then I will carry that energy into so many environments. And the biggest hack I've found into like better manifestation, better results, better power is to pretend, okay? Is to act as if for the thing I want to be, the professional, the adventurer, whatever my archetype is in that season of my life. You find you get insane, dramatic results from cultivating yourself in this way. I've given this example before, but in acting, there's two kind of schools of thought on how you can produce a characterization. One is outside in. That's called classical acting, very common in the UK. And that's where you wear the outfit of the character you want to embody. You dress like them. You even begin your mannerisms in that way. So actors like Tom Hardy and Michael Fassbender, they started out at Drama Centre London. The basis of that school, actually, back in the 1980s, was ballet. So the teachers back in those days, in the 80s and prior, they would actually start their students off with movement, different kinds of movement, even clown work. And the reason to hyper-emphasize your body language is because it carries such a strong sway on the character that you can cultivate, the character you can develop. So many people admire Thomas Shelby in Peaky Blinders. He has like overly, kind of like comically, like a broad-shouldered walk and a hunch to him, kind of like this predatorial aggression that he gives to the frame. That was designed by choice. Even the fact that the character constantly clears his throat and does this creates this aura around him of a man who takes his time, or when he's disappointed, you could feel it in the clearing of his throat or the clicking of his tongue. And so you can, day by day create this personalization of yourself. And what's beautiful about it is that you can direct that energy inward and you can pull it from an inward direction. And you'll find that ghost mode becomes so much more effective because you're creating this character from the inside out. And the results you're bringing into life, they're being generated from what you've, manufactured in yourself. A further extension of this is your environment. So I often tell myself, if I'm going to be this kind of person in this new season of my life, what would his environment look like? How would he conduct his day? What does his bedroom look like? What does the car look like? Sam Ovens had done a beautiful piece some time ago, like 5 years ago, on how you do anything is how you do everything. Now, that might not be true across the board, but he made some great insights. The state of a person's car could probably tell you a great deal about how reliable they are, how thorough they are, how immaculate and clean they are. And so you can craft this personality from the inside out, looking at your whole environment, your internal state, what you're doing to build yourself out. And that alone will help you sort of create this archetype and this characterization of really high efficacy and like high output. The next idea I want to share with you in this regard is that you should move in the right circles. So I believe in this very profoundly. Ghost mode is not about isolation. In fact, you don't tend to get great results from isolation. People who have gone monk mode in the past, I really don't recommend it outright because you don't generate your best ideas in isolation. You generate your best ideas in the environment in which those ideas were meant to be pulled from. I've said this in the past, but big reason why I felt called or inspired to make a film about Ireland or just Irish culture in general is because my whole life I grew up in an environment, Minnesota, that has strong ties to the Irish. In fact, just later this month, we've got an Irish fair that tons of people go to. And so I strongly believe that the ideas you produce are very, very tied to the environments you put yourself in. What does this mean for you? Isolate yourself from the environments that are bringing you down, that are dragging you down, that are not getting you the results you want, but forcefully put yourself in circles where you can get a new result. If you go to a gym where people are just highly fitnessed, it's like they're like competing in CrossFit or something, or there's a sense of community around what they're doing, their ambition in that regard, just by being in that circle, you will naturally find yourself making these micro tweaks or micro changes that pull out more from yourself. Suddenly you will randomly find yourself pulling out the food scale and weighing out your food, or just naturally, you might finish a 12-mile run like I would do back in the day. Back in the day, you might eat chocolate or candy. Now you feel kind of weird about it because your new environment, they never indulge in these sweets and desserts. So even though you put in this effort, I feel rarely called to eat junk food because somehow the environments I put myself in, it's like not the norm. It's just not what you do. If you want to get a great position, a great corporate career, even today, even though people talk trash about corporate life all the time, I think it's one of the most surefire ways to success in America if it's climbing the corporate ladder. It might be a little bit boring, but it's very sturdy, it's very resilient. Put yourself in environments where you are in office spaces, downtown. You get to a city and you get into an environment where people are suiting up, they're going to the work, they're going to a cubicle, and putting yourself in environments where you can generate the ideas to get the results you want is so exceptionally powerful. So ghost mode is not about complete isolation, but you need to rather feel like your ambitions. This is so incredibly important. If you want to feel like an actor, get to like a stage theater or a place where there's acting classes. Even if you can't afford classes or training at the moment, you can be around those environments. If you want to progress as like a real estate property manager, go to the investment meetups that people hold like once a quarter, or go to your local entrepreneur club that has meetups, in various bars and breweries and whatnot, and be in those spaces. You can even just like do laptop work as I've done in the past. You just show up, you're a little bit shy, but go to these spaces where you can pull the ideas that you want, because ideas and insight and progress, it is not generated in isolation, okay? That's a huge trap with this online culture around monk mode and whatnot. The best ideas are generated in the environment in which those ideas were meant to take hold. So at this point in the video, I believe in this principle so much, I would invite you to like pause the video and ask yourself, like, what are my goals? What is it that I'm trying to achieve? Now, what are some environments that I can put myself in regularly where I stay there a couple hours every day? What environments can I put myself in that will naturally make me turn into that result? And you'll find if you can pin down what those locations are, what environment you're meant to be in, and if you can regularly put yourself around those environments, around those people, just that combination of things will get you such dramatic results. Now, if growing on YouTube is an environment that you want to put yourself in, sometimes it's hard to find fellow YouTubers in your vicinity where you can, progress with together. In my 6 years of doing this, every time I've gotten around other YouTubers who've been in this with me, I feel less crazy. That's an environment I've often found it's like difficult to place yourself in. So if you're looking to grow your own personal brand, whether that's Instagram, YouTube, or otherwise, not even just for like growth online, but rather to like maybe generate leads for your business and whatnot, I run a YouTube coaching mastermind with cohort sizes of 3 or 4 people per group. It's a program that I've been running for almost exactly 2 years now that I'm very, very proud of. It's called the Captain Sinbad Group Coaching Academy. If you want, you can check out the link in the description box in the pinned comment. And if I think you're a good fit, I would love to get on a conversation with you and learn about your goals with personal branding, content creation, and more. So those links are in the description. Now on with the rest of the video. Third idea I want to talk about is let the clothes make the man. This is very similar to what I said in the beginning about how you need to act as if. One of the easiest ways to get into the environment and to get into like the mentality that I want to get into is with my wardrobing. It's with the way I present myself physically. In these different seasons of my life, I've experimented with different ways of presenting myself. I remember when I first got a motorcycle 2 years ago, it helped shift this identity I had with myself as someone who's always very, very safe. I found myself, feeling like my parents, feeling like my father, in the sense that you do things that are safe, that are by the books, that are sound. And as a result, I think it was good for corporate life, but in so many of my other endeavors, whether it be creative or otherwise, I felt a little bit square. I felt a little bit stuck. And getting the bike, as superficial as it is, it helped me internalize and see myself in a new way, as someone who could be dangerous, as someone who could be daring, courageous. And as strange as it is to make that connection, Getting that motorcycle perhaps is one of the big reasons that I was able to have a breakthrough both in my career, in my interpersonal relations, and with business. Like getting the bike genuinely helped me with business because it helped me make some moves that would be a little bit more risk-taking. A sort of athlete and entrepreneur that I really admire is Eric Hinman, who kind of took Ironman triathlon training to a really, really high level, and now he's a CrossFit guy and sort of an Instagram influencer who I've talked about in the past. In a podcast interview that I saw with him, he talked about how taking risks or incorporating a level of risk into a lot of the things he does, including his training, the ability to like play with risk or absorb a little bit of risk into your life, it's sort of a skill that needs to be cultivated. You need to do things that make you stretch your risk-taking ability. And without risk-taking, it's very hard to have a really big breakthrough or quantum breakthrough, because feeling that discomfort, feeling that struggle, feeling that suffering, or just that fear around it is what allows you to unlock your mind, to raise your ceiling, and to believe in new things you can do. I try to have one of these risk-taking breakthroughs once a season. Most recently for me, it's swimming a mile in open water. I finally conquered the fear of like getting past water where my feet couldn't touch the ground. And I swam a mile in a lake with Anuj, my videographer, being there in a kayak just in case something happened. But it was a huge psychological breakthrough. I remember the first few times that I went out into the open water, as soon as I knew mentally that there is no more ground beneath you, my brain had sort of like a spasm and like tried to drown me or try to send me back. It took me like a handful of false attempts just to force myself to get out into that open water. But once I was able to do it, my risk-taking ceiling grew. So you can do this, you can arrive at this sort of mentality with some props, with some help. It could be a motorcycle, like it was for me 2 years ago. It could also be the wardrobe, it could be the way you dress. Present yourself and manufacture yourself in a way where you feel like the star, where you feel like someone of import. Some references that I've often used in the past is I love the way actors present at movie premieres or on late night talk shows. They're just so put together. They're put together but casual. It's got a very like relaxed, completely polished image. And it's just a lovely feeling to walk around life in the world where you feel that sharp, where you feel that kind of glowing and relaxed and well presented. And you just stand out, especially at like the airport or something. I always try to show up well dressed to the airport. And it feels so significant. It feels so special, especially if you go to like the airport lounge or whatnot. You find yourself being able to produce some of your best work because you came across exactly how you wanted to. You know, you sort of like lived up to the character that you have in your mind of this spy or someone who is capable. The last idea I want to talk about in this video is to cut out the noise. And a good reference or a good cue for that is don't message anyone you don't have to. This is often the great undoing for people, is that they're pouring attention, they're pouring energy into people and things that give them nothing back. And I think for many men, the completion of your story arc or like your ability to finally begin your hero's journey with all your power and all your tools available to you is when you can sort of let go of seeking feedback from the outside all the time. And rather you can just focus on loving your process, loving the work in front of you. I have had a number of temptations and undoing related to this where I would constantly be pouring my energy outward and getting very little back in return. And as a result, just feeling a little bit like diffused in my focus and distracted. And it was only when I finally resolved to just like focus on loving my work, focus on loving my craft, that I was able to move internally and find my source of strength, find my source of power again. This is another thing to write down. Where am I putting energy where it's giving nothing back? This could be people you're trying to connect with, as it is with so many men. This could be vices, or even things like commuting. Sometimes an unnecessary commute, you know, or like an unnecessary vice. It could be like the coffee that you get every day, where it just like ends up taking all this random time that it shouldn't. It could be like the fact that you end every day with ice cream and it does nothing for you. It's just like this vice that you've allowed into your life, or 30 minutes of scrolling that you allow yourself to do at night rather than going straight to sleep. Where in your life are you giving and not getting back in return? Because I promise you, there's so many more things in life that you could be doing that just straight up give to you. They're generative. They give you a feedback. They give you a result. They basically amplify your results, and you just don't give them enough respect. Okay? It's just a terrible shame to allow these vices or these anchors to slow you down. I would also say mess and inefficiency, an unclean environment is a huge detriment to your ability to think and do well. So when it comes to going ghost mode, It's really about having that supreme confidence in your endeavors, even if you're faking it. A lot of that you can find from just the stylization, from the clothes, from the presentation, from like the kind of the swagger and the suaveness in which you do your life's work. And this doesn't mean that you necessarily have to go out and buy a bunch of clothes and spend a lot of money. You can take actually what you have and look at the environment you have currently, create beauty around it, create efficiency and elegance like a spy would. Additionally, just pretend psychologically, get yourself into a mental space, get yourself into a visualization where you see yourself as this character and move forward from there. And for anyone who's willing to do that, to us I say, greatness is coming. We'll catch you in the next one.